I think worse teams have like one style that they try to keep on because it's hard for them to win games, so they need to master something and just keep with it. But for us, I think it's not a thing. So
All right, this is Zento from Esports Heaven, and I have here with me Inspired. Now, you guys just beat 100 Thieves, and it was a pretty close game in the very beginning. But one thing I want to touch on, I think, is the idea of the MSI hangover. Do you think that's like really a thing? Like, because from what I heard, and I don't know if this is correct, but did you guys just start practicing like this week?
yeah, we started practicing. We practiced like 3 days. I think we got even shit stomped by Dignitas in scrims one day. Not really shit stomped, but we lost some games. So I was like laughing a bit, but I still knew that we are a good team. So if we play well, we'll probably beat the teams we are playing this week.
Yeah.
And about the hangover MSI, I think it depends on the players. For example, in our team, I think only Danny is the player that likes to have a break because he feels like he's like playing too much and he wants to chill a bit. But I think every other player is fine with playing all the time. So I guess it didn't affect us that much. I think if you have a lot of players like Danny that rather just they need like a bit of time off to like take their like just chill,
Yeah.
then maybe then it's a thing. But I don't think it works for us. I think only one player. We try to help him adapt and stuff like that. So I think it didn't really matter for us. And on the other hand, like the other teams get a lot of practice on the new patch. We didn't really practice on the new patch yet because we're playing MSI all the time on the old one.
Sure.
But I don't know. It seems like it didn't really change like so much because I think the champs that are being played were already played previous split. I think the champ pool didn't really change too much. It just they become tankers. So I don't know. It doesn't feel like it affected
See,
us.
like that's one thing that I've always wondered about the MSI hangover curse, I guess you could say, is that oftentimes the patch will be quite large and there will be something big, but also too, when the teams come back and usually they come from NA and they get shit stomped and international, is that they start questioning their own style or their own identity. Have you guys done that at all? Have you done any soul searching? It seems like you guys are doing the same thing you have been doing.
I don't think we have any team style. I'm also not a believer of team style or stuff like that. I think you play what's the best in the current meta and how the game should be played. I never thought that we play like one specific style. I think we just play depending on the draft where we have the edges in the draft. There we try to make plays. Where we need to scale, we try to scale more. So I guess it was a good example this week against Cloud9. We had full scaling comp and there was not really a lot of action because we can't really, our champs don't allow us to do much stuff. But today we had more playmaking comp and there was a lot of fighting. So yeah, I don't really believe that there are like styles. And maybe for some teams, I think worse teams have like one style that they try to keep on because it's hard for them to win games, so they need to master something and just keep with it. But for us, I think it's not a thing. So yeah.
So, speaking of maybe a style, you guys did do something that's unorthodox, which is basically a no engage comp today. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think engage is something that teams should rely on, or do you think it's harder to play a game without engage, as much engage, or?
I think if you are a bad team, I think you need to have a lot of engage because then you rely on enemy disrespecting your number advantages and like engaging the fights. But I think if you are a good team and you know your win conditions, you can play without the engage. Especially, I mean, sometimes you need engage. For example, if they want to Wukong Kaisa, then we already know that we don't really need any engage in the game because we have Ezreal, they have Kaisa Wukong, so. If we don't just pick something to help Ezreal, they have to go on us, so we don't really need engage. So it depends on the comps. I think if enemy have long range stuff like Ezreal, I don't know, Azir, Corki, then you definitely need to draft engage, otherwise you just lose. That's what Cloud9 did yesterday. And yeah, I think it just depends. But for sure, engage comps are way easier to play.
Yeah, yeah. And I noticed that too. A lot of the times in NA, it will be the Ezreal doesn't get to put out enough poke before the team fight, and then things go awry. So it's like you guys played your comp pretty well, and realizing that win factor. Talk to me about maybe this particular meta, because we aren't fully set in it. It seems like the durability patch, it does seem like it has extended the game a little bit. But what are your thoughts overall in it? And also, what are your thoughts about maybe this leading to more late game team fights to where you guys have to rely on Danny a bit more to carry some of the weight?
Um, well, I think the meta is very bot focused. I feel like you pick top jungle mid depending on your bot matchup. For example, if there is like Kalista in the game, then you know that the game will be really focused around bot and you need to pick something to snowball through it. Or if you're on enemy team against Kalista, then to prevent her from snowballing. So then you pick the champs good into Kalista, and I feel like that's mostly what I do when I look into my champ. I just look at enemy bot lane and what will be the best into it. So mostly you draft like that, I feel like, in nowadays. That's why there's a lot of AD bans in the first phase. I think every team is like banning at least 2 AD carries and trying to set up the draft around it. So yeah, that's basically it. And about the team fighting, I think Danny is like, actually, I never saw someone that good in team fights. So I think laning phase is not his best like part of the game. I think he still needs to learn about this. But when we get to team fights, I feel like it's always like so free to play.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good meta for EG for sure. So I noticed next week that you're going to be facing against Immortals. Now, Immortals has their new jungler, Kenvi. I don't know if you've seen any of the games about this guy or even if you've heard about him, but he's supposed to be a really good jungler coming from Academy. So what are your thoughts on, I guess, next week's matchup headed into Kenvi? And do you have any words of advice for him as being a new rookie jungler?
I don't know if I have any words in advice, but I don't know. I never really felt like any players are that good, honestly. It's really weird to me because Dandy and Jojo are actually very special, and that's like the actually any players that I see have so much skill. But it's very rare, in my opinion, for any player to be good. So we'll see how the guy will do, because I never really played against him. I didn't really watch his games. But he's not even that young. I think he's like my age or something, and he's just starting. So I think it's kind of late to start the career. I feel like a lot of players started playing like in the major leagues when they're like 17, 18. So starting at 20 is a bit later. Not late. Not gonna say late, but yeah, we'll see. I think maybe he's good. I think NA junglers are pretty decent. I think like Closer, Santorin, Blabber, me, and River as well. I think everyone is like pretty strong in the jungle, so it will be hard for him for sure. Especially looking at the way their team plays. I think Power Review doesn't really like too much action, so it's pretty hard to play jungle with this kind of middle laner. So we'll see how he'll adapt.
All right. Well, I look forward to next week's match. Good. Congrats on the victory.
Thank you.
This has been Azento from Esports Heaven and Inspired from Evil Geniuses. Thank you.
Thank you.